No, I want you to define what toxic masculinity constitutes. Since we're going to define things so carefully, let's do it.
Let's say, that you kind of...
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we're going to watch one of the greats, one of my favorites. I'm a bit biased. Jordan Peterson debate a feminist on a topic that I'm really into, and that is masculinity and the lack of it in society, because I firmly believe that masculinity is not toxic, the lack of it is. Let's get into it.
Jordan, my question is, what is the antidote towards toxic masculinity?
Well, the antidote is responsible masculinity. And what does responsible mean? It means, well, if you're responsible, then you're trying to do what's honest first. So you're careful with your speech and your actions. You're careful with your speech in that you don't say things that you know to be false, and you're careful in your actions so that you don't have to lie about what you do. That's a good start. And then the next thing would be that you're capable of taking responsibility for yourself, at least, so that once you're an adult, no one else has to bend over backwards to ensure that you don't unduly suffer in the world. And so that's responsibility for yourself. And then if you get halfway good at that, well then, you might think about taking on the responsibility of a family and contributing to your community and doing all those things in a harmonious manner. And that's obviously the antidote to toxic masculinity, which is not a phrase I would generally use. I just think about it as, what would you call it? I think sinful behavior is a much more accurate representation personally, but it's honesty and responsibility.
Essentially saying is you need to have good morals, you need to have good values. Making men more feminine is what these feminists tend to want, is not going to solve the problem. Like, bad men, because there are toxic people in the world, not just men, but women, there's toxic people. Bad men don't stop being bad when they stop being men. They stop being bad when they start being good. Like, the same traits that foster greed are the same traits in men that build economies. The same traits that make men do stupid, foolish things are the same exact traits that make men do heroic stuff. You got to teach boys and men to harness that. The answer to this toxic masculinity that she's going on about is not less masculinity. It's not make men more like women. It's better masculinity. The problem in today's society is that the men are not masculine enough. You got to teach young boys how to harness this. This is how they're going to become healthy, productive members of society. This is how they become leaders, CEOs, heroes, great fathers. It's the same exact traits, but you need to learn how to harness it. Just taking it away from men, that's not what you want. Turning men more into women, you're going to end up with some evil men out there. You're not going to end up with these great men, great fathers, boys that open the doors for their girlfriend on a first date, men that are soldiers, protectors, providers. You need to teach boys how to harness their masculinity. You don't want to take that away.
And I do think about it as a function of harmony. I got that a lot from reading Jean Piaget, whose work was a psychological extension of Kant's categorical imperative. Because Kant believed that you should act in a manner such that if the way you acted became a universal, that would be beneficial. But Piaget formalized that very nicely, showing that one of the bases for the emergence of a system of genuine ethics was an iterable form of reciprocity. So that, so for example, I can give you a quick example of that. My granddaughter, who's now 15 months old, has discovered a new game, and it's a Piagetian game, a developmental game, and she discovered this by watching, but also on her own, and partly because it's a very deep part of human nature. So she has this little wooden spoon, and her game is, you sit with her at the table, and her game is, she gives you the spoon, and then you take it, and then you give it back, and then she's all happy about that, and then she gives the spoon to the person who's sitting beside her, and then they give it back to her, and she's very happy about that. And so it's an amazing game because she's learned to give up something, to let go of something that she wants, and to trust someone else to return it to her, and that's what she's playing with. And then you can play with that game. It's quite fun. So, and you have to pay careful attention to her and watch how she's manifesting her emotions. And so maybe what you do is you take the spoon and you hide it under your hand. That sort of disconcerts her a bit. Then you show it to her, and pick it up and give it to her, and she's happy about that because what she sees is that the principle of reciprocity can maintain itself across a set of transformations, and that's really exciting to her. Or you can give her the spoon, and she can give it back to you, and then she can reach for it, and you can pull it away 1/4 of an inch. And that sort of disconcerts her, and then she'll...
Said that didn't cover really a toxic masculinity, right? Because
Yes, it's dealing with
just
dealing with the principle of reciprocity.
You just said that you have to be honest and responsible as a man, right?
Well, put it this way. When I'm giving the spoon back to my granddaughter, I'm not engaging in toxic masculinity.
So Dr. Peterson breaks out the Jean Piaget analogy, which was a really good one. He's super smart, so he likes to break stuff down. He likes to go into elaborate details and give anecdotes and examples, but it went right over her head. And I'm not going to lie, when I was in my early 20s, I wouldn't have known anything about Jean Piaget either. But this girl looks like she's probably studying like lesbian dance or something. She ain't going to be the one to know about Jean Piaget. A lot of these feminists, the people on the left, they have this idea that you're going to feminize men, feminize boys, take away all masculinity, and you have this like utopian world of peace. That's not how it's going to happen. And now you see it in schools. This is starting at early ages. There was this case in Australia where the little boys had to go in front of all the girls in the schools at a young age and apologize for being men, for what men have done through history, for being toxic. How do you think that makes these little boys feel? You're taking away all the intrinsic stuff in schools that make boys boys. We want to compete. Don't run up the score in baseball or football. Everybody gets a trophy. And this goes on through high school, through the workplace. Boys are told that whatever characteristics that make them boys, that make them men, is bad. And this anti-male tilt that we're pushing into society, all this does is it creates tentative men, unhappy women, confused boys and girls. At the end of the day, no matter what feminist theory is out there, I don't care. This is not going to change. Women want men that can provide. Women want men that they can count on, depend on, that are leaders, that are protectors. You can't change that no matter what the feminists are going to tell you. I personally don't know one woman who is attracted to passive male, like these beta male types. Women want leaders. They want protectors. They want men that are responsible, that can provide. This is not social construct or cultural pressure. This is innate enough. You can't change it. No matter what society is going to try to tell you, this is how we are. This devaluation of masculinity and making men more feminine is not going to end well. Passive men, these beta males, they're not going to stop evil. They're not going to be good leaders. They're not going to be soldiers. They're not going to be good providers. Passive men don't lead. Passive men are not great fathers. Passive men will not do the things that we need men to do in society for our society to thrive.
And that was the point that I was trying to make, is that, and this deep reciprocity and trust is part of the social contract, and it is precisely the antidote to what precisely, since we're going to pursue this, what precisely is toxic masculinity, as opposed to, say, toxic femininity or toxic humanity? What exactly are you asking me about?
Well, I really want to know what you like, how you would describe toxic masculinity. Because
No, I want you to define what toxic masculinity constitutes. Since we're going to define things so carefully, let's do it.
Well, I think.
Okay, guys, sorry, but we really have to move on. So there will be more questions later on. There will be a lot of opportunities.
No,
to
but
ask
maybe
questions.
let's if you. Okay, so let's define it
shortly, please.
Gosh, okay. I think that the moment when you kind of, I have a hard time to kind of describe it in English.
He's poked the bear one too many times. Now he's pressing her on the definition. Okay, let's define what we're talking about, because you can see she's getting a bit aggressive. She's got a bone to pick. Maybe she's just this raging feminist, or she doesn't like Jordan Peterson, but for whatever reason, she pushed him a little bit too far. Now he wants an actual definition. Now we're going to dig deep into this. Now we're going to get to the root of the matter. And the same thing goes with most of these arguments that they have on the left. They can't even define what they're asking Jordan Peterson, in this case, to define. It doesn't have two legs to stand on, her argument. And it's funny, because I bet even this girl wouldn't even date the type of soy boy feminine men that she's trying to push on society. I personally don't know one woman who is attracted to passive male, like these beta male types. Women want leaders. They want protectors. They want men that are responsible, that can provide. This is not social construct or cultural pressure. This is innate enough. You can't change it. No matter what society is going to try to tell you, this is how we are. This devaluation of masculinity and making men more feminine is not going to end well. Passive men, these beta males, they're not going to stop evil. They're not going to be good leaders. They're not going to be soldiers. They're not going to be good providers. Passive men don't lead. Passive men are not great fathers. Passive men will not do the things that we need men to do in society for our society to thrive.
Let's say, that you kind of go over a boundary that kind of neglects the freedom of the opposite, well, gender or whatsoever. So that's toxic masculinity, and that you kind of have.
But
this
that would also be toxic femininity.
Well, may I like finish my sentence,
Sure.
please? Thank you. And then also, I lost my sentence now. But no, I will be back. I'm back. But more in the sense that. Yeah, can someone help me here in the audience?
Okay, so before we move on, let me point something out. You know, that I was willing to undertake this line of discussion, allowing for the possibility that the category of toxic masculinity had some content, right? But if we're going to pursue that line of reasoning and quibble about the answer, then we're certainly going to quibble about the definition that's embedded in the question. And so part of what's happened in our discourse is that we're required ethically to assume a priori, merely out of politeness, that the utterance toxic masculinity actually constitutes a meaningful phrase. And if you push it, you find very rapidly that it doesn't, because it's very, very, very difficult to define, and definitions actually matter. And so if it's a matter of transgressing against the boundaries of gender-appropriate behavior, well, first of all, that indicates that there's something universal and normative about gender-appropriate behavior, which is something that people who push the idea of toxic masculinity generally tend not to presume. And second, it's just as likely to happen among women as among men, in which case it's not toxic masculinity. So maybe on to the next question.
Okay.
And there's another win for our boy, Jordan B. Peterson. And when it comes to like toxic masculinity, one of the reasons that we have men not being good men these days is we have too many fatherless homes. 1 in 4 kids is living in a home, that's little boys, little girls, without a father. And those families, you know, we don't have the bedrock of society that we used to have, which is the nuclear family, which is the mom and the dad being at home. Families that only have the mom at home, especially with young boys, you get higher incarceration rates. High school dropout rates, 70% of the high school dropouts are from fatherless homes. Higher rate of teen pregnancies. Kids do better with the father at home. They do better with the mother at home as well. And this is something that we have to fix in our society. People have to be more accountable for their actions. Hookup culture has created a lot of this. Again, another unacceptable behavior from both parties. Now, at the end of the video, I want to leave you all with one of my favorite quotes from C.S. Lewis when he describes the difference between cerebral man and visceral man. And here, man is mere spirit, and by his appetite, mere animal. We need both. Take one away, and you're left with a man who's either weak or wicked, and in a world of wickedness, weak men are nothing more than enablers of wicked men. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Leave a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.